l'acqua, il frate fuoco. Tu capisci?
No.
Sì.
Some?
No.
No.
But if you speak Spanish, I'm sure you would be able to pick up the words of that. This is called the Canticle of the Creatures, written by St. Francis of Assisi. And of course, he speaks about the sun as brother sun and sister moon and sister water and brother fire and mother earth. But too many people get a little confused with this is because they think that St. Francis was someone who loved nature. You know, they always showed him with a little bird on his shoulder and a little deer and a squirrel. This basically makes Franciscans nauseous. And they always sort of show Francis in the movies, and, you know, he's a little bit, well, in Brooklyn we call it light in the loafers. You know, he's not really a real man, you know.
Light in the loafers.
And, so when we hear these stories, you know, we sort of roll our eyes and like, okay. And so the friars have come up with some sayings of St. Francis, because sometimes you pick up a mug and it says, you know, a saying, it says St. Francis. Like, he never said that.
Uh-huh.
So we came with our own ones, like, there's more than one way to skin a cat, St. Francis. Kill two birds with one stone, St. Francis. Money makes money, St. Francis. Although I'm from Brooklyn, we make fun of people from Long Island. And
I think Vicky's not here.
Maybe some Long Islanders here. Some years ago, I was giving a parish mission out in Long Island. And at the end of my talk, I was packing things up. And actually, I was the only one in the church. And about to walk out of the sanctuary just to leave, because the mission was over and the other friars were out. And all of a sudden, from the back of the church, I hear, "Are you a Franciscan?" That's a Long Island accent. "Get off the lawn." Okay, there we go. "Are you a Franciscan?" I was like, uh-oh, here he comes. So now she comes up the aisle. "Are you a Franciscan?" I said, "I am." She goes, "I love animals." She said, "I'm very happy, you know, about that." She goes, "Oh, yes, I love animals. You know, and my dog has a little St. Francis medallion on it, and he loves it." So I'm sure he does. The funny thing about it is, she was wearing this leather coat with fur collar, fur sleeves, and leather straps. So, I mean, this was the real deal. And you know, so she goes, "Oh yes," and she goes, "I love animals." I said to myself, "You like them dead, don't you?" Unfortunately, St. Francis, like many other saints, somehow cast maybe into an image that we really would want them to be, but they weren't exactly. Yes, he did have a great love of all living things. I understand that he was made the patron saint of the environment. I believe it was by Pope Paul VI. But he was much more than that. If he was a patron saint of anything, or anyone, maybe in this regard, he'd be patron saint of the Eucharist. When you think of St. Francis of Assisi, you may think of a dove or a bird or a deer or a squirrel. The last thing that you would think of was the Eucharist. But it's interesting that the friars, inspired by St. Francis, brought the Eucharistic spirituality wherever they went, wherever they preached. At the time of St. Francis, there was really no such thing as Eucharistic adoration. Now, we all know from day one, the Church always affirms her belief in Jesus present in the Blessed Sacrament. We know that. But it wasn't like that people would spend necessarily time before the tabernacle talking to Jesus. It wasn't necessarily part of that understanding or mentality at the time. They would receive Jesus. Jesus was kept in the tabernacle quite often in a particular place, on the side, or a special, what's called a Eucharistic dove, which was a metal dove, which was like a little tabernacle, and it would hang above the altar for protection. Of course, there was no way of getting to it without pulling down the chains. But St. Francis was all about Jesus. St. Francis was all about, he was taken up with the reality of what we say in the Creed, that he is God from God, and he's light from light, and he's true God from true God. Francis couldn't fully understand how it was possible that the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and that he who reigned in eternity would even want to come and be with us, and to empty himself, as it says in the hymn in Philippians, emptied himself, taking the form of man. The poverty of Bethlehem, the poverty of the cross, the poverty of the Eucharist. He was taken up with this. You and I may think about it, reflect on it, read about it. He would enter deeply into the mystery, and the deeper he got into the mystery,